What would happen if you could stop worrying so much about what your team was doing all day and instead focus in on what you're supposed to be doing to move your business forward? Sounds like a dream, but right now you're living the nightmare of having to overcoach, over-handhold, and over-check in on your team's work. Let's put an end to that and instead roll out super clear 5-hour work plans, drum beats, and more of my signature tools that drive accountability and self-sufficiency deep into your team. All you have to do is join a Leadership Lab program, and I'll help you turn your team troubles into triumphs. You'll be learning and growing alongside some peers that will become valuable business friends. So why not go beyond this podcast and join us? It could be the smartest thing you do this year. Book a call with me and see what program would best fit you over at the website, stackingyourteam.com/programs. Hello, leader. There's no need for people who are applying for your roles to ask a friend to craft a resume or hire a resume writer or even a recruiter to position them well as your candidate, because now they have AI. So how do you ensure that the people who are applying for your role postings can actually back up the glowing skill sets, experience, and even lingo that was so eloquently used to describe their capabilities in their AI-generated resume during the interview? Well, today I have 4 must-have strategies for you to ensure that you are not duped by any AI-generated resumes and risk wasting your time interviewing candidates who are unqualified, or worse yet, selecting someone who's misleading you. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast. Thanks for tuning in and following your curiosity to learn and honor your personal conviction to be the best leader you can be. On this podcast, you won't hear a bunch of theories presented by academics who haven't been in a workplace in years or ever, and you'll not hear from executives who are flush with capital, people, and pool tables in their cafeteria telling you how to build team culture. Nope. Why? Because you are a small business owner and you've built something great out of nothing. And through it all, you've learned that you need a team, but not just any team. I'm your host, Shelli Warren. I've led winning teams in retail, innovative technical teams at a Fortune 50 corporation for decades, not-for-profit boards, and in online business, and helped many remote teams win at work. And I can tell you that no one escapes team troubles, including me. These days, I'm the CEO of Stacking Your Team, where I teach and develop tools for small business owners so they can attract, retain, and develop their teams so the founder can step out of her day-to-day operation. I'm so happy you're here because we all know that the people side of running your business is often the most difficult, and the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there. So come on, let's jump in to today's episode. It's a strange world these days. Technology has given us so much in terms of helping us save time and increasing our productivity. Can you even imagine what it would be like to run your business without the automation we now take for granted, or the communication tools and devices we simply can't live without? It's truly a whole new world. But we've also learned that technology has a dark side too. Everything from deep fakes that manipulate images and video, to voice cloning, to computer-generated human-like avatars. So it's time for all of us to be more discerning about what we see and hear. I was watching a YouTube video last week of a renowned person in the health and wellness space, and about 2 minutes in, I noticed he mispronounced a word. And then I noticed it happened again, and then again. And it dawned on me, this is voice cloning, and a pretty darn good job of it too. It sounded exactly like him. Well, except for the mispronounced words. There's no way he would do that. I shut it off. I was thoroughly disappointed, And I can't imagine that he would have been aligned to his team releasing this. I don't care how much time it saved him and his team. It was so off-brand. You may be using AI every day in your business to craft your content, like newsletters, social media posts, articles, emails, maybe even your role postings. So you shouldn't be shocked to find out that people will be using tools like ChatGPT to craft their resumes. And in the world of small business, where you don't have an HR department to peruse your resumes or run them through your own company-preferred screening software to spit out a score that decides if they'll receive a computer-generated interview invitation, you've got to get smart about not wasting your time in your hiring process, because dragging out how long it takes to find your next new hire is a luxury you don't have. So let's get right to the point. AI-generated resumes could mislead you about a candidate's actual qualifications, leading to mismatches between what's on paper and what's presented during the interview. Your best strategies to combat being misled and wasting your time is to follow these 4 steps: pre-screening the resume, hosting a pre-screening interview, following through on reference checks, and then digging deep in the actual interview. Here's how. You'll have to consider doing a few things differently with the first strategy, pre-screening of the resume. Start with this. Have a look at keywords. Some AI tools will be over-reliant on those keywords. Actually count how many times specific words are being used, and then you're going to save those keywords for later. While you're noticing keywords, highlight phrases that perfectly match the words and the phrases you used in your role posting. After all, that's what AI will do as it tries to perfectly position the person as your number 1 applicant. Most people using tools like ChatGPT will tell you that the final product often requires some tweaking. So you'll want to notice any unnatural or awkward phrasing within sentences that would be a sign that the content was stitched together, albeit not very well. Now you'll go through the resume looking for inaccuracies that a seasoned expert in your field, like you are, would notice, but that may have slipped past the AI tool or the candidate. If you see that there are glaring issues within the resume, almost a too good to be true vibe, where those keywords don't match the years of experience, or the former job experience is in a totally different industry than your role, and so it's obvious that the so-called qualifications aren't a match. Highlight those inaccuracies. As a small business owner, it's up to you to assess the person's true skills and capabilities. So do yourself a favor and follow through on the second strategy to save you from being duped by an AI-generated resume. And I hope you're already doing this as part of your hiring process. Yeah, it's the pre-screening interview. Either you host this short video chat or have a team leader do it. Here's how. Use the keywords and phrases that you've highlighted from their resume and listen to hear them use those as they answer these 3 questions. The first one, what compelled you to apply for this role? The second one, what's your availability? And the third, what are your compensation expectations? Now, let's look at the first one. You're anticipating them to reinforce that your role offers them more of what they've already considered to be their mastery skill set, or that it offers them a chance to build upon it. That's why they applied. And yes, you guessed it, you want to see if they're using those words and phrases and the lingo that was included in their resume. It's a moment of proof that they have the experience and know-how that the resume claims that they do. The second question gets to the point of when are they going to be ready to start? I've seen so many business owners forget to ask this question only to realize further into the hiring process that the person isn't available until many months later, but they're just trying to get a jump on securing their next position. So maybe they have to wait till after maternity leave is up or after they've settled in after relocating to your area. Always ask, what is your availability? And the third question also cuts to the chase and confirms if the person has overly inflated expectations for pay, benefits, or not. It's a perfect time to confirm for them that you are or you are not prepared to provide benefits, or whether you are or you are not prepared to pay the salary or even the range that they want. It's all about not wasting your time or their time. Your next step in being able to truly discern the candidate's true skills and capabilities is to follow through on checking their references. I am shocked at how many small business owners fail to do this. Now, you're going to be armed with their resume that's highlighted with their keywords and phrases. And of course, you're going to have your notes from the pre-screening interview too. So here's your chance to get some perspective from their former employer to help you decide to move them further along in your hiring process and invite them to a formal first interview. These are two of my favorite reference check questions that I coach my clients to use. Number one, would you rehire this person? And number two, would you rehire this person into the same role? In the first question, you're looking for an easy yes or no. It's that simple. They either would or they wouldn't bring them back. You're listening to hear things like, we miss her, or there's a definite void here without her. The second question confirms whether they thought the person excelled in their role or not. You may hear that they would not rehire them into that same position because they now understand that the person was actually better suited for something else. And you want to know what that something else would be. It will become clear whether the candidate has developed a skill set they listed on their resume or they haven't, based on what you gather from this very important reference check. Oh, and if you get caught in the references will be provided upon request scenario, request it. It's a critical component to any stellar hiring process to ask for the references. And if they don't comply within a few days, move their resume over to the trash file. Now, if you're interested and intrigued to learn more about this person and you want to move them forward in your hiring process, invite them to an interview. Here's how you can ensure you leverage this face-to-face opportunity to rely on your own human evaluation of whether or not this person would be a fit for your role. Now, keep in mind that you're looking for patterns. You want to see evidence that the answers they provide, the stories they tell, and the learnings they share match the level of competency outlined in their resume. Now, don't forget, you also will have your notes from your pre-screen interview and your notes from your reference check. Here are some interview techniques for probing and verifying information. These are important whether you think the resume was AI generated or not. And I want to encourage you to bring along a team member, a team leader, or a trusted colleague to join you in the interview so that you have a comparison. My favorite type of interview questions are the ones that prompt the candidate to share stories. Stories are a great way of demonstrating their enthusiasm, their concern, their pride, their personality, and the overall communication style that they use to interact with others at work. So leverage those questions that start with, "Tell me about a time when." They always work so well. Then let them tell you at their own pace while you listen to hear the context behind those highlighted keywords, phrases, and the lingo that they included on their resume. You're going to want to pay attention to whether or not they're using those words and phrases at all. Or are they overusing them, but incorrectly, or without any specifics that back up or lend to clearly demonstrating that the action was taken rather than simply throwing around those words and phrases because they memorized them. If they choose to tell you about a project, are they sharing specific details about its timelines, the challenges, the problem solving, the skills they mastered, and whether the project met its goals or not? If they choose to tell you about a personal situation, listen for signs that they have empathy for others and self-awareness of their own strengths and opportunity areas for development and ownership for what they learned and what they're doing differently now. If they choose to tell you stories about how they excelled at something, listen to hear if they give credit to others for the part they played, how they learned the skill, how they mastered it, and whether or not they trained or taught this skill to others. And be sure to ask some deeper questions that relate to their claimed expertise for your technical roles. Genuine candidates typically handle technical questions confidently, and they'll go deep themselves without any prompting to better explain their philosophy or their methods. So as we close out today, let's recap what you just learned here on the podcast about how not to be duped by AI-generated resumes. Let's face the fact that it's the intention of an AI-generated resume to be crafted in such a way to include those specific keywords and phrases to match your job posting, potentially inflating the candidate's qualifications artificially. They often look the same because they use rigid templates or formats with limited variability in layout and design, and the sections are arranged in a predictable order, like education, followed by experience, followed by skill, without much creativity or personalization. Generally, they lack a personal touch and those nuances that a human-written resume would provide, so no real personality shines through. You'll need to become a bit of a detective in order to combat the spectrum of language used, which really goes from overuse of generic phrases and boilerplate language to perfectly matched lingo frequently used in your industry. It all depends on the parameters the person loaded up into the AI tool to generate the resume. Now, frequent users of ChatGPT will tell you that the more precise criteria that you provide the tool, the better the outcome. So let's recap. Here are those 4 critical steps to uncovering the evidence that this person really can back up what they shared on their resume, whether it was AI generated or not. The first one, you're going to want to pre-screen the resume. You're actually getting your highlighter pen out and you're going to highlight overuse of keywords that feel like they've been spewed out across the resume without any context. You're also looking for lack of personality or any unnatural or awkward phrasing. The second critical strategy is to host a pre-screen interview. And when you ask them, what compelled you to apply for this role? Listen hard to hear proof that they have the experience and know-how their resume claims they do, and they want to do more of that or build upon those skills and experiences with you. And the third one that everyone seems to skip over, but it's so important, is checking those references. Now, you'll be armed with your resume that you've highlighted, and you'll have your notes from the pre-screen interview, and you'll be listening to hear that their former employer would or would not rehire them. And you're also keen to hear if they would rehire them into the same role or not, and why. It will become clear whether the candidate has developed the skill set they list on their resume or they haven't. And the fourth one are the actual interview questions themselves. You're going to want to leverage those questions that start with, tell me about a time when, and then let them tell you at their own pace while you listen to hear the context behind those highlighted keywords, phrases, and lingo. Are they sharing specifics that back up or lend to clearly demonstrating that action was taken rather than simply throwing around those words and phrases. It's all about seeing signs that they can make a connection between one work experience to another. Authentic candidates easily can connect the dots and tell stories of how they've transitioned their learnings from both successes and failures from one role to the next. If you're finding this podcast helpful, imagine what's available to you inside both of the Leadership Lab small group coaching programs. It's all there, waiting for you, and so am I. Leadership Lab 101 is a 4-month fast-track program for women who are building their team and want some of my key signature team leadership tools to help them get it right from the get-go. A client in this program recently commented in the online community platform, "I feel like everything in here is especially for me." And if you have a team of 5 or more and want a leadership team to drive your daily operations so you don't have to, you'd love the Leadership Lab program. It's a 12-month program where you get all of my signature tools, private and group calls, and even in-person retreats to accelerate the people side of your business. Team performance is always on my mind, so I've got a program designed specifically for your team to accelerate their effectiveness too. A client recently emailed me to say, "In my reflection on the year, one thing I was so glad that I started was joining the Leadership Lab. And I wanted you to know that you're providing great support to us entrepreneurs out there on this wild ride." You can join either of the programs at any time. No need to get caught up in any big launch campaign, because when you know it's time to get quality help leading your team in your small business, it's the perfect time to join. Zip on over to stackingyourteam.com and see that I don't just coach you, I teach you. And yes, it's really me who steps into your business to help streamline your efforts. It's all about making it easier for you to be ready for more growth. You know, leadership can be exciting, challenging, and lonely at times. So don't go it alone. Let me help you create the team and the leadership structure that you've been craving. So until next time, remember, if you have a dream, you need a team. So let's get stacking yours today.